Let's take a quick look at the Verdi Coverage interface. The way you invoke it is just like you invoke Verdi, and you just need to add this extra argument called -cov, which puts it into coverage analysis mode. In addition, we're going to be passing in a coverage database as well. So let's fire that up. And you can see here, Verdi comes up in a coverage mode. And just to give a quick tour of what you're looking at here, this is the summary data. There's various tabs. I can look at the instance hierarchy of this design. I can also look at modules within it. That's effectively just another way of viewing the same hierarchy. There's cover groups as well. These are kind of presented somewhat hierarchically here. There's a tab for assertions. There's some basic statistics you can look at. And that's the main parts of looking at the summaries of coverage. And you can see here, each hierarchy and each module is broken down into whatever metrics were extracted from those modules. This is code coverage. Groups is part of functional coverage. Groups and asserts together will make functional coverage. And you can go into further level of detail and kind of drill down and see what you want here. Now these are just the top level scores. Let's suppose you want to see a little bit more detail. Let's click into one of these here, and by default this middle window opens up into the source mode, and we're looking at the line coverage of this particular module. The green means that the lines are covered, and the pink color means that the lines are uncovered. You can also see this broken down over here. There's FSM coverage as well. This particular module has one FSM. It's a very simple one with just 3 states and 9 possible transitions, most of which are not possible. There's condition coverage as well. You can see these are the various expressions that were extracted from the design. And there's no assert data in this particular module that we selected. And for instance, if you right now I just selected one of the conditions, and you can see in the middle the coverage source window synchronized with the condition that we're looking for. And the same thing happens with FSM too. If I go click on this FSM, it should bring me to the definition of the FSM, namely the current state that the FSM is centered around. Same thing goes for cover groups. I can go drill into a cover group, and we can see, say for instance, the cover points involved in it. And now I can see it broken all the way down to the bins that are involved in the cover group. Similarly, the source window has synchronized itself to view what's where that cover group was defined if you want to see the actual source definition of things. And just like anything else in Verdi, these windows, you can break them out and expand them and do whatever you need to view this stuff better. So that's the basic way that you would navigate through coverage. You basically start at the high level scores and you drill down into the details and maybe look at the source. Other things you can do with Verdi coverage is you can start excluding things. I could, for instance, exclude an entire cover point, and if we recalculate it, you'll notice that the scores changed a little bit. They got a little bit better because we excluded that. We can also, let me just unexclude that now, and we'll get rid of all those exclusions and recompute. We can also exclude individual bins over here. I'll just click on a couple of bins. And you can see, by the way, they're popping up down here in the exclusion manager. This is sort of a redundant display. Effectively, it's a summary of all the exclusions that you're working on. And that's kind of an alternative way to view things. And again, we can recompute the score, and you'll notice that since I've excluded a couple of things that were unhit, the score goes up. So that's one thing that you can do with Verdi coverage, is you can review the coverage, and anything that's not hit that you think needs to be excluded, you can exclude. You can also do things like add annotations to these as well. You can add some reason why that got excluded, and when you reload this exclusion file, you'll see the same annotation will appear here. Alternatively, you can add an annotation up over here. And say for instance, we'll go back to the hierarchy of the design, looking at line coverage, and we'll exclude these lines here. And these annotations should be attached to the coverage when we start excluding things. And recompute the scores, and you'll see them, they'll come out right down here. This is the annotation column. You can sort by annotations. There's various different ways you can organize this coverage window. Now, in addition to excluding things, you can include things with a verification plan. And here we're going to make a new verification plan. And once we got the plan, we can start adding features to it. And there's a whole flow behind this. And you can basically add coverage to these features. You can even do a mix of coverage. You can go into a coverage bin and drag it in just a simple bin to the coverage as well. And this plan effectively now is only referencing those two items that I just dragged into the plan. And if we recompute it, you'll see that we've got scores computed now for those features and also computed all the way up to the top level of the verification plan. There's a lot of stuff you can do with the verification planner. This just gives you a real quick touch on how to do it. You can also save the plan once you've got it and write it out to some new file if you want. So that's a real basic overview of the Verdi Coverage UI. There's a lot more detail involved here, of course, but hopefully this gives you kind of a quick lay of the land and understanding of how this interface works. Thank you.